Hey everyone, today we're going to take two Squier Classic Vibe Stratocasters and compare them to the standard Fender made in Mexico Stratocaster and see how different are they. So the first thing I want to point out is there's a lot of mention about the bodies being thinner, and they're really not. What happens is these are classic vibes, and what that means is they're trying to make them a classic vibe, like the vintage style, but a little modernized too. So let's get into what that means. First thing it means is obviously the yellow tint on the necks. Both the Rosewood and the Maple have that same kind of finish to give it a vintage vibe. Now they use polyurethane, a modern finish, but it's to make it look like it's a heavy lacquered neck and body look. Now the other thing is the bodies are rounded over. This is something to take notice to. Do you see how the body kind of rounds to a point? Let's look at a standard series. We're using and you can see how more squared off it is. Still rounds on the edge, but it doesn't come to a point. So it gives the illusion that the bodies are a lot thinner than on the standard series. These classic vibes are using these Kluson style tuners. I say style because they're not actual branded Kluson, but they are replicas, and they are really good because one thing I note is that they are metal ends. Everything in there is metal. There's no plastic. A lot of these inexpensive tuning keys will have plastic ends now, but they have very similar looking bridges. But I do notice that the overall quality of the bridge looks a little better on the standard series. You can see that they're using a better piece of metal when they bend this, right? This is just, it looks a lot better. I like how they actually put the Fender logos in there. The overall quality of the bridge looks better and feels better. The block on this, both are using a kind of, pot metal block, but there's more mass on the Fender one than there is on the Squier one. Now let's compare the Rosewood guitars to each other. Now, the one thing I will notice right off the bat is that the Rosewood Slab fretboards are different. This is a thinner one versus this one is thicker. Again, I'm just pointing out things that you could notice as maybe a cost-cutting feature. Maybe this piece is a little less expensive doing it that way. It's really hard to say that because Fender over the years have done both thicker and thinner slabs for all kinds of reasons. One thing I do notice that is a huge difference between the two guitars, especially all three of them. I feel personally that the neck on the standard made Mexico feels the most correct to what I perceive a Fender neck to feel like. All three guitars set up perfectly. They all have great action and feel and play fantastic. I have no issues with the overall quality of any one of the guitars. However, only the standard to me feels the most like a Fender guitar does. And what I mean by that is closest to the American series. I've seen a lot of videos where they talked about how the Squiers feel and sound exactly like the American series or the Custom Shop, and it's not the same. The necks don't feel exactly the same. Although they do feel good and they are finished very well, there is just definitely a vibe to Fender and how they carve the shape of the neck. This neck carve is slightly different in the way it feels. Again, that really doesn't matter. It's not a value of price by any means. It's just something maybe Fender's holding back that little piece of recipe, or maybe it's just how this factory likes to carve its necks. Now, the other thing I notice is there's no rolled edges on any of these models like on the American series. So you will notice kind of like more of a jagged end corner, especially on the Rosewood one, a little sharper than maybe on the Maple. Again, not a huge difference. You may not even notice it in most cases. They're using smaller fret wire on the Classic Vibes than they are on the standard series. Where I noticed the most change is in the electronics. Now, the Classic Vibes are claiming they are Alnico pickups, and I pulled one apart and confirmed that. So they are Alnico magnets, which is more like a vintage Fender would be, or more like a vintage correct Fender would be. However, they are using alpha pots, which are cheaper, lower priced, smaller potentiometers, and a very cheap 5-way plastic-based PC board based switch, where the standard series is using the larger 250K potentiometers just like on the American series, and they're using the same 5-way really rugged switch that they're using on the American series as well. Now when it comes to sound, I actually prefer the Made in Mexico Strat sound, but keep in mind that's not a preference of quality, it's a preference of these ceramic pickups just have a lot of punch to them. I actually like them sometimes more than even what comes stock in the American series. Tuners on the standard series are ping, just like what's on the American series. Again, they're import tuning keys, but they are very good. No issues at all. So overall, nut materials are about the same. These are very like type guitars. The difference being $200 in street price US. And the question is, which one would you prefer? Well, that's up for each individual guitar player to decide. What I would tell you is that if you want something that feels like the American Series Strat, this is very close to that in the way it sits. Now, if you're looking for something that feels more like the American vintage guitars, these guitars do get closer to that feeling and that look. I really think at this point that if a manufacturer wants it to be done, any guitar at any price point can just be a fantastic guitar. I keep seeing guitars that just boggle my mind when it comes to the quality that's put out for the price point. Although $400 is not cheap, keep in mind that it is hard pressed just to find parts for guitars like this. I mean, just a pickguard, pickups, and a bridge and body alone could get you easily into $400, and it doesn't even matter where that stuff is even made. So it's interesting to me that they can put such a high fit, finish, and quality onto a guitar into that price point. Now, I understand the whole where it's made concept changes the price, but that's not what I'm getting at. This is definitely not just where it was made, it's how it was made. It was made really well. Well, I hope you had fun, because I sure did. Please take note that down below there's all kinds of links to Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, buy t-shirts, subscribe, you name it. If you're interested in any of that, please check that out. As always, just a reminder that just watching the videos is more than enough support, so I really appreciate you guys for supporting me and watching the videos. And I want to thank you for your time and know your gear.